See you in 2019. Can't fucking speak. I'm so glad this is done. My God. This is part 2 of my 2018 reflection. My 2018 reflection ended up being almost 2 hours long, so I decided to split it up, and here is the second aspect of that. And in this, we're going to cover things like what upgraded my quality of life this year, what destroyed my quality of life this year, where I grew the most, if I choose to keep that in, or maybe I put it to first, who knows, my biggest lessons, and my biggest challenges as well. So, and as well, patterns I noticed about myself, which is probably my favorite part about the whole thing, by the way. Anyways, I hope you enjoy, and let me know what you think. Ciao. Where did I grow the most? Imperfection. Like being okay with not being so perfect on every damn thing. And I actually like consciously try to make some mistakes now because, I don't know, it's just, we're all trying to be so fucking perfect. It's quite ridiculous. So learning to appreciate the imperfection of things, also realizing how subjective the idea of perfection is. It's not real. Like, anyways, and it's just a much better idea to have 5 8s, if you will, instead of 1 10. And that 10, again, the 10 and the 8s are just like opinions. So they don't really matter that much. Less judgmental and more accepting of the world, its people, myself, etc. So yeah, I started out the year pretty judgmental, and I think I've gotten a lot better at that. So I'm very proud of where that's headed. And I still have a lot of work to do on that aspect, but it's going to get better. And yeah, just being more accepting of everyone's journey. Attractiveness. Yeah, I'm a lot more attractive than when the year started. So I'm pleased with how that's going, and it's going to continue getting even better because I become more attractive every damn day. Being more vulnerable, not only in content, but also in like everyday conversations and life. It is such a strength being vulnerable, sharing your sharing your weaknesses, sharing dark parts of yourself, accepting your fuck-ups, your failures, your weaknesses, your challenging patterns. Yeah, it's just like getting it out there is really, really therapeutic. And it's so uncomfortable still, but it's like this strange addiction I have now to being vulnerable that is a really, really cool thing. And it's hard to understand until you're actually in a habit of doing it, but man, it feels fucking cool. So I'm grateful that I built that muscle. Transitioning from the idea of wanting to code and design for my career to wanting to help people at a foundational level via things like energy work. Okay. That's taken a lot of mental jumps, if you will, to do that. And yeah, I'm glad I fucking did that though. But there was this period where I like questioned what the fuck I wanted to do with my life, and I wasn't sure if I should do that or energy work or coding or design. It was just like this clusterfuck of confusion, and it lasted, I think it was anywhere from April-ish type of thing to about July-ish or August, something like that. Anyways, it lasted a decent amount of time, and it was really challenging, but I think I grew a lot. I got good with the uncertainty of it all, and I'm grateful. And now I am quite set on the energy work being my route of choice, and it just feels like the right thing to do. So I'm going to roll with that. Continued reduction of my ego. It's been very tough, but I feel like my ego reduces all the time in ways you might be able to see, in other ways you might not be able to see. So, but yeah, ego is problematic. It is the root of all challenge. So any way I can reduce that is a good thing. Learning Redux with coding, that was fucking problematic. Or not problematic. That was challenging as hell. Like, it took a lot of brain power to fully wrap my head around all the things Redux, but now understanding things a lot more clearly. It's pretty fucking simple once you get past that challenging state. And I'm grateful that I did, because it works so well with React. And in addition to Redux, I also learned a lot of React, like the more advanced concepts. Wow, my brain right now is exploding. I swear. Oh my god, Power of Now. That straight rocked my worldview and really fucked me up in a good way. So I'm grateful for Brian and Ramona and whoever else pushed me to try to listen to it, because it was super worth it and I'm glad I did. A process within non-material source energy medicine called illusion transformation process. Yeah, this also rocked my fucking world. It was just, if I recall, it was one of the best feelings I've ever felt, and everything slowed down, and it was just like this insanely positive and blissful experience. It's just so nice to be connected with Source at that level. Instagram posts. It's been very strange, because I don't want to be this fucking talking head and be like a life coach or anything like that, or a motivational speaker or any of that bullshit. So that was very tough for me to get started with posting in that aspect, but I said fuck it. And I think it was around like October, I started posting things that could have been like inspirational in nature, but it's just me speaking my truth. So that was very challenging, and I'm grateful for the people who did support it. And I've since fallen off of that wagon, and I need to get back on in 2019. But that helped me grow a lot and really get clear on the fact that my intentions play out. Like I'm just being me. This is like, I have to just be authentic. Instagram stories. This has been also super helpful. Like I've noticed my confidence on Instagram stories go from like quite low to becoming very comfortable on Instagram stories. And at the same time, I say very comfortable. I'm still a little bit uncomfortable doing them, but it's been like a nice journey. And all of the little series I've created, like, well, for one, Dues Paid, probably my favorite, which is me documenting my workouts and specifically the weight training I do. And doing things like posting my workout on, and I also did that a few times or once or twice on Instagram Classic, if you will, but like the feed version. But on stories, once in a while, I'll post actual workout or actual footage of me working out. I'll post my favorite songs, silly stuff, funny stuff. But ultimately, the greatest growth came from me just talking on camera and just documenting whatever the fuck is going on in my brain. Because it's weirder doing it when I know a lot of people are watching, rather than something like this where I know less people are going to watch it than they do on my Instagram stories. So yeah, that's it's been super uncomfortable, but has really pushed me outside of my comfort zone, and now I'm a lot more comfortable, and now I can and the right people are vibing with it, which I'm grateful for. Being more playful and just fun with things, like I'm more okay with doing that as well on my story and just in real life. So it's fun coming from those places with all types of people. So the energy work I've done with NIMSAM and learning all that I have with that, as well as implementing what I have learned with that. And I still have much more to implement that I have learned, but what I have applied has been very helpful in growing me as not only a practitioner, but also just growing the habits and the patterns that go along with that. So I am pleased with how that's gone, and it will go even better in the future. So I'm very excited for that. Learning to love failure. Yeah, this shit is awesome now. I love having public failures, because now I have more fuel, and there's like, it's just out there. So if you are judging me, I'm going to make you look like a fucking idiot in the long term. And that excites the shit out of me. Like, you can see my face light up because it is one of my biggest motivators. If you are going to doubt me, I am going to make you look very wrong in the long term. So I am learning to love failure for that reason specifically. Also, it's also humbling, and yeah, it's just much better than, like, I'd much rather have a yes or a no or a clear win or a clear loss rather than having this like gray area of maybe or nothingness. So that's quite enjoyable. Not being so fucking fancy, just doing. Like, so many people will wait for their vlog or the perfect lighting or whatever, and waiting for like a microphone that's ideal or what have you, when it's so much better just to start, because yeah, you just don't, like, it's so much about the message, and it's all in addition, like, the fancy concept goes so much further than this, but for me, it's just okay to just get the fuck on camera and not have this perfect fucking situation, or even my thoughts aren't perfect. Like, just doing and being okay with imperfect action and fucking up and getting back up and trying new things and not trying to impress others with fancy shit or all of the things that go along with that. So the design work I did, I feel like I improved my design, definitely, especially with hierarchy. I got to learn a lot about hierarchy this year, and that is such an important concept that I didn't fully understand until this year, which is hilarious to think about. But so integrating that, and also slightly related to all this, which is, and by the way, that a lot of the growth came from working on projects such as joshmoxey.com, lists, and Infinity, and other random things I was working on. But also related to these things, which is coding, and like, and just overall within React and Redux, and just in ES6, which is JavaScript, all types of things. I just really enjoyed how I progressed this year with coding, and the fundamentals keep getting more and more mastered. I still have so long to go. I'm not sure I'm ever going to master them because I don't know if I care enough to, but I have enjoyed my progress in both those areas. My overall content, like, it's gotten so much better over the course of the year, in my humble opinion. Yeah, I am pleased with how much more comfortable I am on camera. Though I feel like right now I'm a little bit uncomfortable. Maybe it's because I'm fucking high as shit on caffeine. But there's been a lot of growth this year. Whether it's my communication style, my ability to bring myself back. There's just all sorts of things. I feel much more comfortable looking into the camera, talking to it. It feels like quite natural at this point. What else do I have written down here? Yeah, just all types of content creation stuff. It helped me grow a lot. So pleased with that. As well, reflections. Man, reflections has really just helped me with keeping consistent and being vulnerable. A lot of the things I've just previously talked about, which is, yeah, grateful for this series. I'm glad I brought it back, and I'm glad I am keeping with it. Experimentation mindset. Yeah, just really learning to love trying new things, being more okay with fucking up, being okay with falling on my face, and then knowing that, like, it's all just really just trial and error out there. So yeah, again, it kind of comes back to being okay with losing, and accepting the judgments of others, if you will, or the judgments of myself, and reducing those judgments, and ultimately just caring a fucking lot less, so I can let myself do, and let myself try, and let myself fail, and eventually find. And it's a never-ending trial and error thing, but then that's kind of the fun part about it. Being kinder and being more loving. I think this is something I've definitely grown on over the course of the year, and letting myself be a good human being. It can be very easy with my past belief system to not do that. So letting myself be what I'm ultimately, which is, I am a good fucking human being at heart, and it's okay to be a good human being. And not only is it okay, it's so much better to be a good human being. And the people like Steve Jobs, as much as I love him in a business sense, he really failed in the human level, which sucks. So I'd rather be someone like Gary Vee in this aspect. He's such a good fucking human being, and I'm so grateful for people that embody that, like, good kindness, loving, empathetic, all of these type of things that are just so fucking crucial for me now going forward, and have been for probably the last half of the year. What patterns did I observe in myself and my world? I might just like list through these. I might just expand on the ones that require expanding on, but we'll start out with not feeling like I'm enough. This has been a fucking pattern in every area of my life, and it's held me back in all types of different ways, which is a little bit annoying, because if we really think about it, we're like never gonna be enough, and at the same time we are enough. It's like this fine balance between the two. Like, I feel like I'm enough on a soul level, but on a physical level, I do not feel like I'm enough. So I'm not sure what my current or my next plan is with that, but that is currently where my mindset's at with it. My mood goes to absolute shit, and I just feel so bad when I am not growing, when I am not evolving, when I'm not expanding. So whenever I'm going too long without those things, I start to freak the fuck out, and I have a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress and a lot of like just irritation. So avoiding that at all costs is very ideal. Hating being put into a box and hating being labeled. And that's also like my resistance around having a niche, which is I do not want to be stuck in this box that people put me in. So it has its positive and its negative for sure. Desire to know more than everyone else. Yeah. And at times I can find myself trying to know more, or trying to like show people that I know more than them. And it probably comes from insecurity. It's so weird that I'm sharing this on camera. But yeah, I definitely know that is the case. I also really don't like being interrupted, being talked over, feeling like I'm not being heard. What else? Oh, taking a small idea and creating this massive fucking vision out of it. Like, it becomes very romantic very fast, and I get attached to it, and it's annoying as fuck. So this is so strange that I'm sharing like the fucking code to myself on this. Caring too much at times about external validation, acceptance, and quote unquote love. Being unteachable at times and feeling like I know everything, which is clearly not the case. Never feeling like I am a good enough entrepreneur or designer or coder or NIM/SEM practitioner. That always feels like I'm never enough, and I have always so much more to grow, which is accurate in one sense, and it's also problematic in another. Lack of urgency, like I've talked about earlier, and selective urgency. Letting the judgments of people I know and people who I care about stop me from doing things that I ultimately want to do. Good example of that is social media, and like not wanting to be a talking head, but ultimately knowing that I have to put myself first and say fuck you to them. And if they want to judge, be my fucking guest, but I'll be doing me. Trying to impress people both consciously and subconsciously. That's the thing, for sure. And again, comes back to, I'm finding that there's a lot of insecurities that have to be addressed. And I'm just embracing the fact that there are insecurities. It's this very strange thing where it's like having insecurities but also being comfortable that I have insecurities, which feels like confident. Is the funniest thing. If you like think about it and take a step back, you'd be like, oh, he has insecurities. Well, everyone has insecurities. It's kind of just how you handle them and how you approach them. But that's, I think, an important step to all this, which is we all have our insecurities to a degree, and it's kind of just how we approach it and how we go forward with it that makes all the fucking difference. When I'm getting closer to a timeline, or I'm getting closer to finishing a to-do list, I find myself slowing down and taking my gas, or my pedal off the gas, if you will. And that is such a failure habit right there. And that requires absolute change, because I should be going even harder for that last little bit to make sure it gets fucking finished. wasting time and convincing myself I need decompressing. I mean, I guess we do to a degree need some sort of decompression, but sometimes I just have way too much of a subconscious desire for excessive decompression after certain things, like even raves. Like, do I really need as much time as I've spent in the past to just chill before sleep, or when I get home from something, whether it's like a coffee or a meeting or what have you. Sometimes I can just feel like I could decompress the rest of the day away. Obviously don't do that, but yeah, it's like this really subconscious bullshit belief or pattern that I don't think is actually that real, and I think it's just my brain trying to stop me from doing things. Thinking that if I create this certain thing, it's going to change my life forever. There are levels, yes, it's going to level up your life, but there's nothing, this might be a limiting belief, but as of right now, I'm finding that there's nothing I'm going to create that is going to completely change everything and make everything so goddamn easy or magical. Like even something as crazy and as powerful as NIMSM, which has changed so much, it still doesn't change everything. There's nothing, I don't think, that is going to change everything. There's things that are going to make things easier and ultimately change a lot of life and aspects within it, but there's no end-all be-all thing, as far as I know right now, that is going to, like, you're still going to wake up and feel the same way no matter what you achieve or do or whatever. Like, you are wherever you go. So there's just a lot of work to be done with that belief, because I can create things, but I'm still going to feel the same way at the end of the day that I feel now after I've created it. So it's worth fixing the original challenge at hand of why I'm feeling a certain way and not another way, rather than trying to just create things and hopefully trying to fix it with that, because it's not going to fix it. Wanting to be direct, but ultimately, and this is actually not wanting to be direct, is just a manifestation of it, but trying to not be confrontational with people, even though I do want to be. I just don't want to make people uncomfortable. So that has led to a lot of things that I don't want to happen. And it's a challenging thing, because it's like, who do I put first? Me or their feelings? Like, typically I'll put myself first, but yeah, I don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. I want people to feel comfortable in my presence. I want them to feel good. So it's a fine balance that I still have to figure out a lot of. Doing things and committing to things and all this stuff that certain things I just do not want to do, but I just do anyways, almost like to gain validation or approval or what have you, or avoid disapproval or something like that. There's a million possible causes for this, but whenever I'm people pleasing, it typically ends with me being like, why the fuck did I do that? So it's better to just not people please altogether and just do what the fuck I want to do anyways. Yeah. Forever wishing I worked more and got more shit done. Ongoing pattern. Don't see it changing anytime soon. I just want to get more shit done always. Having an opportunity within arm's reach and doing nothing about it and letting it slip. I better fucking change this fast, because this is one of the most problematic things in my entire life, pattern-wise. And it will be, if I do not fix it, it will be my absolute downfall in all of life. Bored by money, but energized by winning. This is a fascinating thing. I find that like a lot of successful people embody this as well. They don't care about money per se, but they really care about winning. Number one person I think about is Andy Frisella. He's obsessed with it, and I love that because he is a gem and a half. I feel like Gary could be on that level as well, though I feel like his intentions are not as intense about winning as they are with Andy. But I'm glad I have that, and it's like a detached energy around money, so I can make more eventually. Ultimately, this year I think has been showing me how much I care about what people think. Like, I don't want to disappoint people. I don't want that disapproval. All of these things that are quite frankly less than ideal to have as patterns. And well, it'll be interesting to see how I go and how I approach it going forward, and how I choose to solve things, and Yeah. But there's just lots of external stuff that I have to work on still. Caring too much about the right words, quote unquote, instead of just going with the flow and free flowing, and ultimately is coming from heart or gut or my intent, if you will. And when the intent is correct, the words usually come out quite well, but I can sometimes forget this and overthink things and care too much about the actual words I'm saying. Which, like, right now, I'm not really thinking about the words per se. I'm just flowing off of something I read and going wherever it leads me, or wherever I lead it, kind of thing. Learning something, but not applying it. Yeah. I think I'm not alone on this one. There's tons of things I learned that I forget to apply. And I don't think it's from a conscious, like, oh, I'll get to it later. It's more like I fucking forget about the principle altogether. And that is typically why I don't apply it. Though there are some times where I do learn something and I just have too much fear to apply it. That happens. And getting over that and just saying fuck it and doing it anyway is usually where the most growth comes from. So I would like to remind myself of that more frequently and then do it anyway. What improved my quality of life? Let's do some more rapid fire, okay? 2 protein smoothies daily, which are shakes essentially with fruits and stuff like that. Removing green drinks and replacing them with powder. Thank the fucking God. Thank the Lord for that. Nim-Sem sessions on myself daily. Holy shit. That probably the best of them all right there. Like, bliss every goddamn morning. It's amazing. Google Photos. So helpful. Having a huge library for iCloud. Super, super thankful for that. iPhone X's camera. New dubstep songs and new mixes. My God, that is amazing. Also related to that, going as my music gets harder, I also have made more time for softer music here and there. Things like Elenium and Martin Garrix specifically is what I'm thinking about there. Using things on my phone over my laptop when I can. Watching my physique grow over time. Super enjoyable. Lifting only 3 times per week. Thank fuck for that. And then I'll do like 2 abs. 1 or 2 abs typically. So I was seeing Jaws and Garrix at Veld. That was incredible. MyFitnessPal and Strong. Those 2 apps for tracking weights and tracking food. Did I say weight? I meant tracking lifting weights. My brain right now is so fucking crazy. All types of delicious food such as tuna, omelets with cheese, my protein shakes like I talked about, or protein smoothies rather. Yeah, I just love food so much this year. Treats, like tasty, sugary shit. It's also good. All the new people I've met from Montreal, love them. And as well, rekindling old relationships and old friendships. Love that so much. Working out and lifting weights from home. Super helpful. Closing open loops. Taking time to just do that is very, very energizing to me. To-do lists. When used correctly, they're absolute gold. Adding a 4th set to lagging muscle groups. Reverse pyramid training, of course. Incline and bench. French press for coffee. Being in the sun, which by the way I miss because it's fucking cold outside right now. My second smoothie of the day being absolutely delicious. Like, it tastes like bubblegum ice cream. And it's also healthy as shit, so thank God for that. Using a medicine ball at my desk. Hell yeah. Of course, podcasts and learning through audio. It's my favorite way of learning. Better than video and better than reading, in my opinion. Caring less about perfection in all areas. Drinking black coffee in the morning while I'm fasting. As well as midday if I choose to. Meditation, of course. Creating, designing, sketching, and making time for that. Educating myself on the basics. New clothes from H&M that are cheap. Feeling attraction for beautiful women. Being checked out all the time and receiving a ton of compliments on my attractiveness and my body and my physique. Creating things that I've wanted to create for a long time but haven't taken the time to. What reduced my quality of life? Waiting until last second to finish the power list or letting it drag out super long. Imagining criticism. Low battery on my phone and old and slow phones. Camera not working correctly on my phone. Going to parties or social gatherings. Fuck that shit. Just taking away from the work, quite frankly. Being low on sleep and having brain fog. Listening to idiots. Forgetting to be grateful. Hosting while trying to hit my power list. That is fucking hell. Trying to be perfect. Bullshit. Poor body language. Waking up late, going to bed late. Debating and arguing over a DM. Fuck that. Being interrupted and talked over. Being corrected constantly. Trying to be subtle. Repeating myself in conversation. Too much caffeine. Brain stops working effectively. I feel this right now. I feel like my brain is too high on caffeine and I cannot focus enough. Slow laptops. Caring too much about outcomes. Cardio. I fucking hate cardio. Aimlessly consuming on social media. Expecting others to have the same values and action and all that stuff that I have. What were my biggest lessons? Probably the biggest lesson that I've learned, one of the biggest lessons that I've learned this year that I've actually really got drilled home from doing this reflection in the doc sense was realizing that the things we think are so important right now will very quickly become just a non-event. It's amazing how in this moment we can value something so fucking highly and be like, oh my God, this is so important. And then looking back, you're like, why the fuck did I make that such a big deal? It was such a tiny, tiny thing. So for me going forward, I want to take the time to remind myself, and I have been recently, of just reminding myself how much of a non-event all these events are. Like how low in importance all these little things are. And that's what they are. They're little things. They're not these huge things that we can blow them up in our heads to be. And taking a step back and just reminding myself of like, wow, this is not going to matter very fucking soon is a good way of just calming myself, lowering the pressure of this task or event or what the fuck ever it is, and letting myself be more detached from it. And ultimately, when you're more detached, things just seem to work out fucking better. I realize that I'm in a very ideal place right now with NIMSAM in that I do really believe that it is going to be where the world is going, and I crave so much being where the world is going so I can be part of a few things. Part of something super fucking meaningful, part of something that is truly having radical, foundational, positive impact on human beings, the world, etc. Number 3, so when I say going where the world is going, I mean like being at the ground floor of something before it happens and watching it all play out is super fucking cool. And that also means I can be one of the quote unquote like top dogs, if you will, in that aspect. It's also just a great way of niching out because it's like new and I can get my foot in the door, quote unquote, easier. And I just have to make sure that it's the right door that I'm putting my foot in. And I really do think it is with NIMSAM. And when I'm saying NIMSAM again, non-material source energy medicine and just source energy medicine as a whole. Yeah, I really just do think it is going to be where the world is going. I do think that the world is headed for nowhere fast unless they change things on a different level than previously. Like, yeah, we have to fix things at an energetic level, not at a surface level. Just things are not going to be fixed by the traditional ways, or else they probably would have been fixed by now. So we have to do things differently. And I do think it is my belief that energy work and this type of thing is required because I do believe that that's where everything comes from, the energetic plane. Yeah, I'm forever going to be a beginner, and I'm always going to feel like I'm just starting, because once you hit this new level with newfound knowledge, newfound experience, whatever, it just feels like you're on a whole new fucking plane. You're like, oh yeah, like that stuff before, like that was just like practice, and now I'm really starting. And it's like that never-ending change. You are going to feel like you're constantly leveling up, and that's so exciting to know that you're never going to, like, it's always you're never going to feel like that past stuff is part of now. It's like, it just seems like practice. It's very funny to listen to and watch. as this takes place in my life. It's one thing to learn from books and audios and courses and all that jazz, but it's such another thing to apply it. As soon as you apply it, it becomes true knowledge. You can only really know something, in my opinion, if you are learning it with your own experience, if you are applying it in everyday life and really taking that time to integrate it. And through trial and error is, I think, the ultimate way to learn. After you can learn things through books, and all that jazz, but taking the time to actually apply what you've learned and find out if it does work or if it doesn't work, I think is everything. Experimentation and trial and error is fucking crucial. So I think that a lot of people do not experiment and stuff like that because they're scared of what people think. They're scared of the judgments of others, the POVs of the world, quote unquote, when in reality, they don't fucking matter. If they're not in the game, their opinion means jack shit, quite frankly. So I am loving experimenting this year. And yeah, if you can get past that, past the judgments of others and all of those things I just mentioned, like it's a game changer for sure. And I cannot recommend that enough because it is through trial and error that we learn the best, like I was just talking about a moment ago. The more content someone can pump out, the better. I find that with me, the more content I'm putting out, the more reason I am to give people to follow me that I would like to follow me, the ideal niche, if you will. And then people who aren't my niche, I push away because I don't want them to follow me. They're not my niche, right? So that's been super fucking helpful, and like recently pumping out a lot more stories and secretly hoping that a lot of people unfollow me because I want to continue just cleansing my audience and pushing away people that aren't going to vibe with it, and then it brings other people in who are going to vibe with it, and the people who do already follow you or do consume your stuff, they're going to be more loyal the more content they consume. So it's not a bad thing pumping out a shit ton. Plus, there's just such a shit ton of content out there right now that people are not going to consume all of it because there's just such a fire hose of information and content from everyone else. So they're not going to see everything necessarily. So it's not the end of the world, you pumping out a shit ton. And again, it's just like, it makes those people more loyal who actually do want to consume it, and creates those raving diehard fans. I love to-do lists so much, whether that's like a to-do list with Trello or just a genuine to-do list in written form or on my phone or what have you. So fucking crucial for me. It feels like a game, and I love my gamification of things. And yeah, keeping it's like a target for me, and I just love the act of crossing off things on my to-do list. It's fucking incredible. So having it in front of my brain is also fucking key as hell. And yeah, I'm a fan. It also increases urgency when I have a big enough to-do list. If I'm not thinking, or if I'm thinking about it in the right way, it can also crumble me if I'm not cautious. So that's a key distinction right there. To build muscle, focus on lifting heavy, and as heavy as I can for 5 reps typically, with reverse pyramid training, and size and strength will follow in short order. So yeah, been focusing on 5, 6, 8 typically with reverse pyramid training, and the classic is the bench. So with Greek God, and that's where I got this, it's been like just super helpful and my size is slowly but surely building out because of focusing on lifting heavy and using reverse pyramid training, which is like it goes down in weight each time. So I'm dropping 10% each time in my weight and increasing the reps, and it works fucking phenomenally. It's funny, I haven't gained really any weight. I actually think I've gotten lighter since starting Greek God, and I'm hovering around 170 right now. It's stayed fairly the same, but thankfully I am gaining muscle and losing weight at the same time, which is a rarity, but it is happening with me, so I'm very grateful for that. I realized words of affirmation is one of my key love language. I also realized gifts is probably my least of the 5. It's very ideal to remind myself, specifically before energy work, but also just in everyday life, to remind myself that I am energy. I am a thought of source, if you will. I am source. I come from source. I am not my physical body. This is an experience I'm having in a physical body. When I die, I am back to energy. I mean, I'm energy right now, but when my body dies, I do not die. I'm an eternal soul, if you will. So things like this, and you might not agree with that. Be my guest to disagree. That's fine. This is just what I believe, and these things land or make the energy work land on such a deeper level when you're very on a detached from the physical type of mindset and really identifying, quote unquote, or lack of identification with the physical rather, and just remembering what we actually are. Again, my beliefs, you don't have to agree. Closely related to that, you can help someone so much more by just being at a high energy level than you can with many things. It's amazing how much a proper high energy level, or a vibration, if you will, or frequency, how much this can impact the world by just being. It's a very interesting thought. It took me a lot to make that jump this year because I'm so used to like do instead of be. So the ego is the root of all challenge. Yeah. It's been interesting really working with my ego this year and realizing how much it was running the show. And it still runs the shows in many aspects, but I'm still working actively on reducing the ego and putting self in control. And I don't mean like me, I mean like higher self. It's complicated. Not going to get into this more, but that's the case. Imperfection over speed. Yeah. Things just are good enough. We create such critics in our head of, wow, this isn't good enough. Kind of like I was doing before with myself and my work as well. But the less I care about perfection, the better, because like speed over perfection, like I was saying before, 5/8 is a lot more, or is a lot higher in math than, like it's a lot higher of a number, if you will, than having 1/10. Don't sell the unsellable. It's just a lot of wasted time if you try to sit there and convince people that are not going to budge, or try to just convince people to your way of thinking. Just try to find people who are thinking in that way and then sell them and help them with whatever you have to sell or help them with. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Andy. Appreciate you both on this. It's been very helpful with that. The modern alpha has been redefined. Many times in the past, I feel like I used to think that this like dick type of like it's tough because it still exists, but it's just in a different type of light. So the quote unquote alpha male, I believe now, has empathy and vulnerability and cares in a like detached manner at the same time as caring, is loving, is a kind human being, rather than what I would think in the past would be just kind of like an asshole, like did not give a fuck about anyone. I mean, there's balances between it. Like there's like, yeah, you've really got to be careful with the balances. But yeah, I just do think that this is the alpha male now, in addition to being dominant, putting yourself first, having a very clear goal, vision, mission, etc. All of these things that we do consider to be alpha male traits, but I just do think these crucial things, such as like vulnerability, empathy, etc., gratitude, being a good human being, are the new way. And I'm a fan, because being a shitty human being is so fucking pointless, and you just look like a fucking loser. So yeah, this is probably more of a pattern, but I just realized that when I'm feeling loved, my mood is incredible, and when I'm feeling unloved, my mood goes to absolute shit. And I think the key there is figuring out how I can make myself feel those feelings without looking externally for them, because that is very problematic, in the sense that I am giving up control of the way I feel based on external external rules, if you will, or external validation. So changing the rules and making sure I am, yeah, so like, yeah, changing the rules for sure key, but then also making sure I am making myself feel those ways without looking externally. I'm realizing how important kindness is, and it really gave me a lot of hope with certain women this year that there are very attractive women out there who also are super fucking kind, and it just gives me so much hope. I honestly did not, I was struggling with this so much before Ever After, and then from Ever After on, my eyes have been quite opened in a new fashion, and I'm grateful for that. So, because I had this like shitty association with like assuming that if you're good looking, you must be a bitch or something, and it's such a false belief. And I encourage you to seek out those who are super kind and super good looking, because it's very what is the word? It brings you a lot of belief that there are others out there as well like that. So, in order to be like motivated, if you will, to create content, think of your niche and how you're going to help them. I found that when I stop thinking about my niche and stop thinking about the people I want to help and start thinking about the judgments from people, opinions who don't matter, and who are not my niche, that is when I'm less motivated to make content, because I'm not focused on helping the people who I should be focused on. I'm focused on trying to avoid the judgment of those opinions that ultimately do not matter that much. So that's a crucial thing that I found this year. Overall, I realized how motivated I am by women, specifically attractive women. Yeah, it just drives the fuck out of me. So as much as I love coding and design, I just don't want to do it, I don't think, as a career. I just think I'm limited in the impact I can have on that area, and I have a much better shot of having radical impact and deep foundational impact with something like NIMSAM instead. So that is why I've changed, quote unquote, my career path, if you will, because it just feels like the right move. And I've got to trust my gut, because the gut tells us the future before we can rationally explain it. Being subtle and interacting in subtle ways just doesn't work for me whatsoever. I'd rather just be real, dominant, authentic, and get straight to the fucking point and be very direct about things. It might offend people, it might put people off, but guess what? That is part of the filtering process, and it speeds things up for me. So if they can't handle that, or if they don't like what I'm saying, or if they disagree, that's just going to speed up everything and make things faster. So I don't have to worry too much about that long-term baggage, if you will. So that's been super helpful for me, and being cautious of that has been crucial, because I really don't like the mixed messages, and I don't want to have I don't like experiencing the mixed messages, and I don't want other people to experience mixed messages as well. So I'd rather just give it to you fucking straight, tell you what the fuck is up, and then we move on. A very key way to energize myself is by thinking of a vision, and one in which I am believing in. And the opposite of the coin is very true as well. If I want to tire myself out, think of the lack of the vision, aka it not happening, or think of the vision that I don't believe in. These things dictate my energy so much, or lack thereof, and it is something that I have to do a better job of leveraging in the future, because it is such a real concept on a day-to-day. One of the most out there lessons I learned this year is linear time was an agreement that we all chose. Yeah, that's a crazy one, but I really strongly believe that it will end up being the truth. So gotta put it on video, for the documentation purposes, being historically correct. We must learn to be repetitive and be okay with the backlash, if you will, from being repetitive and being like, oh, you only ever say the same thing type of thing. But it's part of our truth. It's part of being authentic, and it's part of success, quite frankly. Like, success is repetitive. And people who don't understand that are probably not good students either. those who hear the same thing over and over again, if it's a different way of hearing it each time. You're in a new frame of mind. It's another opportunity to get it at an even deeper level. All types of things like that. Yeah, the true masters are more likely to be like, yeah, let's hear it again, rather than the poor student who has heard it twice and is like, oh, I've already heard that. Like it's very apparent which you are based on how you approach that. And ultimately, if you're repeating your truth over and over again, it's you being real to your reality, your truths, etc. So I think it's a compliment. I think it's so fucking crucial to just start out with the idea or the plan that you have. It doesn't need to be this perfect fucking idea or this perfect fucking plan, but just starting is so fucking crucial. Once you're in motion, you will start to iterate, you will start to improve, etc. If we can even look at right here, reflections, like it did not start out very good. It started out quite rough. I just got on camera. I didn't even edit it because I was trying to be totally raw with it. And yeah, I think it's developed quite well, and it will continue to improve and develop over time. And it's an ongoing thing forever. As I change the format, I add new ideas, I remove things, etc. This is just the case. Like, just get fucking started. Because you can't know everything from day one. You have to just get in the game. And once you're in the game, you can see things at such a higher level where you just get insights that you cannot see otherwise until you are in the dirt. And that leads me to a different thing as well, which is the lessons in the dirt are fucking gold. Like, you learn things that you cannot see until you are in it, in the trenches. There is just this higher, it's like you're so in the grind, in the dirt and all that jazz, that you are just able to see things you cannot see up from the clouds or from the top or from the crowd. You're learning things that are just so invaluable. These like key distinction, these things that you're learning through trial and error that make all the fucking difference in your process, in your craft, in your work, what have you. And that's been a major thing for me this year, which is like learning to love the lessons in the dirt because they make all the fucking difference. I haven't been documenting enough this year, as funny as that might sound. But yeah, I've been trying to be too perfect with things. And noticed that a couple of weeks ago. And it's obviously not the right fucking move, because documenting is about being imperfect. And I was just trying to, I don't know. I was trying to be perfect about things and forgetting that the act of documenting is just to be raw and real and wherever that takes me, and share my truths, share my experiences, share my thoughts, share my journey, etc. And not try to be so fucking fancy or perfect about things, just being okay with the lack of perfection. The world comes to people who are energetically aligned. Whether they change or the world changes or a combination of both, I do believe that's how like the quote unquote magic happens. They are energetically aligned with the outcome that they're seeking, and it works in like divine ways. How some, like, you see people who make it quote unquote and people who don't. I do believe that the people who don't are people who are not aligned with their goal at an energetic level, not just a fucking like, oh yeah, I can do it type of thing. But no, your energy is aligned with the desire. It's not always about work per se, but it's always about being on purpose and growing and expanding. But ultimately, just whatever that purpose is, being aligned with it and acting and being accordingly. Yeah, took me a bit to understand, but I feel like that's definitely the truth. And sometimes work is not aligned with the purpose. Like, sometimes it is required that you do different things that aren't necessarily work-based, but they are purpose-based, which means they supersede work. During uncertain times, like I experienced earlier in the year, or rather more like halfway in the year, that was for that period of like 4 months or whatever. What I really liked about what I did is I kept taking uncertain action. Sorry, not uncertain action, imperfect action. So I was full of uncertainty, And during that uncertain period, I just kept taking action. I did what I thought it could be the right move and just kept fucking going. And with that, I was laying a foundation for certain things during that have made things much easier in the future. And if I was just to sit there and do nothing, it probably would have taken me so much longer to get out of that period. But because I was constantly taking action, I was building skill, I was improving myself, I was getting smarter, I was all of these things. So during those periods, it is, I think, crucial to take imperfect action, and it will help you and guide you to get the fuck out of those places with time. Yeah, I don't want to be a teacher or an educator or a life coach or a motivational speaker or any of these things. I'd rather just be a practitioner who happens to make content on the side. And practitioner for me could be things like developer or designer, though I don't really want to do those things anymore. It's more like a side thing for me. But a businessman, an entrepreneur, a NIMSAM practitioner, a creative, etc. Like, yeah, I just want to make content that is my truth on the side. I don't want to be a full-time content creator or a fucking life coach or any of this bullshit. I'm just not a fan. So yeah, that is what I've learned a lot this year, which is I have to do something primarily before the content thing has to be a side gig. I can't let it be my main thing. It's super fucking cringy if it is. It's a very fascinating outlook, and I've got it from Gary Vaynerchuk. And yeah, he just talks about how most people give with expectation, like they want an ask in return, or they're doing it for keeping that. They're doing it with attachment, and that is not giving. I love it's doing this like giving without expectation thing has been really helpful for my quality of life and just being a good human being. It's fucking underrated. All right, so in real time, I think I've recorded almost like 3 hours or something. Yeah, it's been a long time. I am ready for a nap or food or what the fuck else I choose to do. But I'm just very tired right now because that was a lot. I hope this ended up coming out well. I have no idea what I'm going to keep and what I'm not going to keep. But I just know I'm grateful this reflection's over because I am exhausted right now. And I might re-record things. I'm not really sure. So we'll see how that goes. Anyways, if you chose to watch all this, I really appreciate it. I have no fucking idea how it came out. It could have been 30 minutes. It could have been 2 hours. So we'll see how it all goes. Anyways, thank you a ton for watching and listening. I hope this brought you tremendous value. I hope you got some lessons from this. I hope you got some clarity. I hope it provided some insights and sparked some ideas in your brain that ultimately you can apply in your own life. Yeah, if this was valuable to you at all, let me know what you liked about it. You could share it with a friend. That'd be incredible. Like, comment, subscribe, rate if you're on podcast, like all those type of things. Wherever you are, engage. It is literally like the most inspiring thing when you can leave me a comment or some sort of feedback or what have you that you're enjoying it, that you're finding value from it, etc. I love that shit. It means a lot to me. So yeah, my name is Josh Moxey, and I will catch you next time in 2019. And yeah, looking forward to a good year. Ciao.